Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Another great article on playpicks.com for you guys tonight with a nice full slate. We're going to look to get you guys another gift card tonight after Jokic and Curry combined for 77 points last night. Curry went clean off, as we saw, and that means nobody was really able to guess that high. But make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Jump in the comments as we'll offer another gift card prop tonight here in just a minute. And as always, if you need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find all those local listings, such as what we're about to drop for you right now, Nate, on those lines for the 13th. Let's get into it.
Yeah, got a nice mid-slate here for a Tuesday. Some intriguing games, beginning with the Clippers, -3 at Pacers. Hawks now +1.5 at Raptors. Trae Young questionable for that one. The Lakers are +1.5 at the Hornets. The Thunder tanking away are +16 at the Jazz. The Heat +3 at Suns. And the Celtics +1 at the Blazers, which I don't know what to do with. But I will start with the Atlanta Hawks. I mentioned Trae Young questionable. It seemed like the line accounted for him being on the wrong side of that, but it's quickly correcting because I think he's going to play. I think he just sat out one game. It's just a little strained calf, and he has loved playing the Raptors, averaging 31 points and 11.4 assists per game his last 5 against Toronto. Not a coincidence that those last 5 games have gone over, of course, and over by an average of 14.2 points per game. Pascal Siakam on the other side of the ball has killed the Hawks, 26-plus points in 7 of his last 8 at Atlanta. So I don't think either team is going to struggle to score at all. You look at the Hawks, they're number 2 in offensive rating, averaging 117 their last 10 games. They're shooting a league best 49.5% from the field. They get the second most free throws per game. I mean, especially when Trae's in, they really get to the line often. And the Raptors are giving up the second most free throws. But in terms of picking a winner, gotta like the Hawks a little bit more here, especially if it stays at plus money by the time this video airs. Taking them on the money line. They're 18-5 against teams with losing records. They've covered in 9 of their last 10 against those losing teams. And the Raptors are borderline tanking at this point. I mean, they just rested Siakam for no reason over the weekend. Fred VanVleet is still out, and Fred VanVleet has actually become more important to what they do on both ends than Lowry. It's one of the most surprising stats to note that they have a defensive rating 9 points per 100 possessions worse with Lowry. They're 9-5 without him, and they have a 106 defensive rating when he's out. But they are clearly one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA in general when he's in, which is a larger sample size. And so I think the Hawks get their points. I think they continue to take care of business against bad teams. They just have more to play for in the thick of that playoff race, whereas the Raptors are probably content to just slide into the lottery.
Yeah, definitely. I think once they kept Lowry, I don't think they were really making a run either way this year. They were just keeping him to keep him. But this game is sort of a microcosm of this season. Streaky teams that are playing up and down in terms of how well they're playing on offense and defense. The Hawks started the season as a great offensive team, moved into sort of a defensive role once Nate McMillan took over, and now they're back up to being an offensive team once again in the top 5 in the NBA in points per game in the last 8 or 9 games, as you mentioned. So, I'm looking for the total here. Trae Young goes clean off. I love watching for those games where you see guys who have a history against teams such as Trae, who we watched earlier this season, crush the Raptors twice, which we did call that time as well. So let's keep riding the hot hand in that matchup, as you mentioned there. And then another game that has actually some really interesting trends in the team's matchup history between the Suns and the Heat. Both really good defensive teams. Once again, both teams are streaking hot right now, which, as we know for the Heat, is something that they've been doing all season, up and then down, losing streaks up and winning streaks down. And right now they're on that winning streak. They did lose Victor Oladipo, at least for a little bit here, which I do think will be, big for them, because when they traded Oladipo, they were giving up Kelly O, who, doesn't seem like a big force inside, but he was another big man besides Bam, which is somewhere that the Heat have been struggling lately, is inside. Allowing the second most points per game over their last 3. And they're scoring the third fewest in the paint. So I'm kind of looking at Ayton, who in their last matchup when the Suns won by 10 earlier this year, Ayton went for 17 points, 16 boards, had 3 blocks, all on 61% shooting. I think you'll be able to see him eat a little bit tonight. And overall, Phoenix, they're on the second leg of a back-to-back, and they're 9-3 in those occasions. Such this year as it's 7-2 overall with a rest disadvantage in general. So I'm really liking what they do at home. They're incredible, 20-8 against the spread this season. 19-9 overall. So, they're looking really, really, really hot. They've been hot on offense lately, surprisingly scoring the most points in the league at about 123 over their last 8 games, of which they've won, as we mentioned, 7 of those. So, that is a little bit misleading. They've been playing some really poor defenses in that time frame, some teams that really pick up the pace. You're seeing a Miami team who plays at the very slowest pace, and obviously is a top 5 defense. So I don't think you're going to see too many points. But I do like Phoenix to win this game by about 3.5 points. And I'm going to stay away from that total. I know you might like some Jimmy Buckets props, but I'm not really sure if I'm feeling anything other than the total or the point spread in that game tonight.
Yeah, a couple things you can count on in the NBA. Chris Paul getting his team up for any game, no matter who the opponent is, no matter the rest situation. That's why you see the Suns' success there. And Jimmy Butler getting his team up when they're facing a contender. He has been so reliable. I think it's such a great strategy to just take his props when they play a legit team. We saw that come through easily against the Lakers. And he's done well in this matchup in Phoenix, 25 plus points in 4 of his last 5 games. So just take the over easy there, 21.5 points. That's slightly minus odds. And if you want a little juice, Jimmy 25 points in a win is plus 460 at FanDuel. In a game I think we feel will be a toss-up. It's just 2 teams that really like to grind it out in the half court, and it's going to be close down the stretch. So to your point, you said that Suns might win by 3.5 or so. You can try to get exact odds there and back a Suns win by single digits and get plus odds there. I think it's unlikely we see a blowout in either direction.
Great find there. Absolutely.
One of the little known props, another thing that we rarely hit on, right, is the first bucket in a win. And I'm actually considering that tonight with the Clippers at Indiana. It's a revenge spot for Paul George. He has 36 points in each of his last 2 trips to Indiana. Kawhi Leonard is out tonight for rest. So PG has a 36.8% usage rate. When Kawhi is out, he's coming off a Western Conference Player of the Week performance. And if he gets the first bucket and the Clippers win, that's plus 850 on FanDuel. I mean, it is quite a random thing, but the Pacers don't guard the paint very well. I could easily see Paul George attacking right away, getting that bucket, and then you're set up for an exciting game the rest of the way. But
love it.
As far as looking at the overall game, I loved the over when it came out at 229. I loved it before I even saw what the number was, honestly, because the Pacers have been so exploitable in terms of their pace. Number 2 in their last 5 games, number 6 offensive rating, number 24 defense. They are guarding the 3-point line very well, which is what the Clippers like to do, but Clippers are doing everything well right now. They have the best offensive rating and effective field goal percentage by a mile during their 5-game win streak here. And they have thrived against the East in terms of allowing points and not necessarily taking them as seriously. That's why 17-6 against the over, and 4 of their last 5 have gone over against Eastern foes, with the exception being that weird game against Orlando where they just let them win for some reason. So even without Kawhi, I mean, you're looking at a Pacers team that's lost 5 straight home games against winning teams, is 1-10 against the spread, their last 11 at home. I think you take the Clippers. You can also take the points, and then you get plus 230 at DraftKings. I think a Clippers and over is what I'm looking at there.
Love it. And to just add to that, theme of over and Clippers and Paul George, as you may see, you can get Paul George, I believe, making 4 threes or more at plus 360 there. So I love that bet as well. I think Paul George is going to be pulling, as you mentioned, coming in, Dr. Revenge, as we call you, Nate, finding those revenge factors such as Paul George here. Really liking that bet there. Another game I think that's going to be a lot of fun, Nate, some stars coming out. I know you said at the top of the show you don't feel comfortable betting anything that has to do with the Celtics. But I'm finding a couple of things there, and I'm actually pinpointing the stars on these teams right now. So I'm actually going to stop for a minute to let you guys know that our gift card prop tonight is the total points scored by Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard combined in that Boston-Portland game. As always, make sure you're liked and subscribed to the video and jump in the comments with what you think that total will be to be eligible for that gift card. And then, jumping right into why I like that night tonight, Nate, both those stars actually have been going in different directions lately. You've seen Tatum really pick it up in their last 6 for the C's. They're 5-1 this month. They've got the 4th best, in defense, they've also been really good. But really, I'm focusing right now on Tatum, who has really picked it up in the scoring. He's got he's averaging 29 points, 8 boards, 8 assists in his last 6. That's on 50, 40, 90 plus shooting splits there. So he's really putting up good totals. And then you see Dame, who struggled a little bit, as I think. We've been seeing him nurse a leg injury. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games, Portland, and they've only beaten Oklahoma City and Detroit in that time frame, losing to all the winning teams they've played. And as I mentioned, Dame with that leg injury has failed to score 20 points 3 times in that 6-game span there. Something he did not do. He scored 20 points in 38 consecutive games up until this recent streak, which I think we're seeing is due to playing some pretty good teams on defense. And then just his shooting going down with that injury. Also just their defensive rating. It's awful. They've been the worst defensive team in the league essentially this year, next to the Kings. But recently they've also been a little bit better with Nurkic. So that brings me to just the totals here. I do kind of like going under in this game at about I think we're seeing it about 226 right now. 228 or so, depending on where you see it in that range. So I would still take the under anywhere in that range, as these two teams, they've had a bunch of unders recently, especially in their last meetings. They've gone under in 3 of the last 4 against each other, and the Blazers in general have gone under in 6 straight. So I'm just looking at sort of the difference in trends. I do like Boston a little bit there to continue the pace that they're playing at with Tatum playing on offense that well. But I also think the defenses have shown you that this game might be a little bit overvalued in the total. Feeling really comfortable about under about 228 in this game.
Yeah, I like the under, and this is one of the rare ones that's actually going in the right direction for that. It's up to 229, whereas the Hawks and Clippers overs are rising as people back that. I think these teams match up really well defensively against each other. Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown on McCollum and Lillard, that's been a good matchup, and that's why you've seen the total go so low. New acquisition, Robert Covington, has done a really good job on Tatum, so I'm looking at that as a reason why the Celtics might struggle to score. He's held them below 20 points in 6 of 8 meetings. Granted, some of that has to do with Ben Simmons switching off when they were on the Sixers together, but Tatum's shooting just 27% from 3 in those matchups with Covington. And just the Celtics just rampantly inconsistent, especially on the road. They're 11-16. They tend to lose after winning. The Blazers, it's weakness meets weakness in terms of inconsistency. Yeah. The Blazers do not beat winning teams either. They could depend completely on a transcendent fourth quarter performance, usually from Lillard. And the Celtics have been defending really well down the stretch, as we saw in Denver. They just shut them out in the fourth quarter, more or less. So that's another reason to like that under. You see the game slow down and points be really hard to come by down the stretch.
For sure.
In a DFS perspective, obviously, we talked about the stars we like, right? Trae Young, Paul George, Jimmy Buckets. I would also look at Kendrick Nunn with Victor Oladipo out. He could be getting another start, and he had a real nice game against the Suns their last time out. The Pacers are really terrible guarding the paint, especially without Miles Turner. So Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubac are worth a look. You could even go with Goga Bizice on the Pacers side.
Nailed it.
Definitely butchered that pronunciation. And for some value, I am looking at the 16-point spread in Utah. I expect the Jazz to blow them away early and get some rest. But OKC, in addition to the usual guys resting, no Isaiah Roby or our board Poku. So Darius Baisley is just going to be chucking. And then you might see a lot of run for Ty Jerome, especially in mop-up time there.
Nice. Yeah, there's going to be a couple of subs playing in that game for sure. But plenty of value in there. We'll be playing some DFS head-to-head tonight, I'm sure. At any rate, guys, that's all the time we have for you today. Remember to jump in those comments tonight with that game total, the total combined points of Lillard and Tatum. Make sure you're liked and subscribed to be eligible for that gift card. And we'll be back with another show for you guys tomorrow. As for tonight, happy betting.